Hi, everyone. My name is Kim. I'm the founder and creator of Expat Mama. Through these interviews that are both in the audio podcast and the new YouTube channel, we educate people about what it's like to be an expat, which means somebody who's left their native country to live in another country, and we tell their stories. In this case, I wanted to get a little bit different perspective from someone who knows a lot about teaching/tutoring online, since this can be a great avenue of income for many expats and travelers. So today, my guest is Joanne Kaminski, who's from the US. I'm so excited to have you on, Joanne, today. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I can't even stand it. So anyway, I've been following you for a while on YouTube, and I get your emails. And so can you just tell our listeners a little bit where you're from, what it's like where you live?
Oh, you bet. So I am actually from Wisconsin, in a little town called Sussex. It's about 30 minutes from Milwaukee area. And I would say that this state, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, we've got about 6 months of winter every single year. So And
Well,
but you think winter is going to end and it doesn't. It's like you're into June. You're like, please, could winter be over?
so I've heard, I'm from Utah, but it's a whole different kind of winter because I think it's dry snow and dry. You have the humidity factor along with that, right?
Yes, because we're right
Oh,
off of Lake Michigan. Yep. So we do have a little bit more humidity than I was not expecting the humidity when I actually moved here. And I love humidity. Like I'm
oh,
actually really good with humidity.
you're one of the few.
Okay, I don't like hot and humid, but like
Yeah,
regular humidity. I really enjoy like going outside, it being humid, and then coming on inside to the air conditioning.
that's
It
true.
feels like the perfect world to me.
Well, wow, you are an exception. I got enough of that in Buenos Aires, Argentina to last me a lifetime. So
I bet.
anyway, let's hear what you're about. Let's just go ahead and dive in. What do you
Yeah.
do? What are you about? What's your platform? What's your thing?
Yeah, so I started off as an online reading tutor. I had left the teaching world of 10 years after I became ill, and I tried to find my way in figuring out what do I want to do after I got sick and had a very young family at the time. And
Mhm.
I decided after a lot of thinking and exploring, let me try online reading tutoring. And when I started looking up resources and tools, there really weren't companies that said that they offered online reading tutoring if I like wanted to go, let's say, get a job, right? And so I thought,
Mhm.
I know that there's a need. There are so many kids that struggle with
Yes.
reading. So
Yes.
I'm not clueless of the need. So I'm just going to start advertising myself as an online reading tutor and begin doing it on my own without a company. And I am so glad that I did, because I'm able to make so much more money now working for myself than I ever would have working for a company. Here in the US, we have companies that will pay you like $10 or $15 an hour, and you have to be credentialed and licensed and all of that kind of stuff in order to work from them. It's almost like they think that they're doing you a favor, and then they charge the
Exactly.
parents $50 an hour, and they give you 3 students. So they're making $150 an hour and paying the tutor 10 or 15. I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not going to be me. So today I charge over $100 an hour for my tutoring. And I just get the best of both worlds. I get to be home, and on top of that, I also get to help train other tutors in how to teach reading online. A lot of teachers don't know how to teach reading online, and I
Mhm.
also get to show them how to get their own students, just like I was able to do, so that they can put all of those pieces in place for themselves with their business and not feel like they have to be tied to a company in order to um, be found and have a sustainable income.
I love what you say. And honestly, this is such an attractive offer. And you teach people how to do this. So you went ahead and you created your own niche. Okay.
Yep.
Why reading and not maybe like what I do? I teach languages. Why did you decide to focus on reading over any other area?
Well, I worked in a school where only 30% of our kids were on grade level with reading. And so that was really my big motivator to really dive into everything and learn everything about reading that I possibly could. Because I was teaching in a third grade classroom, and I didn't realize that in third grade, kids still don't know how to read. We weren't like told that in college when we were going, like you just assume that by third grade they know how to read. So they didn't give us the resources and the tools to be able to help them. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to learn everything I can about reading. And I ended up learning so much that they asked me to be a trainer for our reading program. And then they asked me to the following year to train the trainers in our reading program.
Love it.
And then I became a reading specialist. I went back to school, got my master's, became a reading specialist. And so reading is just what I knew when I came into it. And it was my passion. I absolutely, there's no greater joy that I have in the world than just sitting down with a kid and helping them with reading. I just get this like sense of peace that goes like straight through my body that, a lot of people ask me like, Joanne, are you ever going to stop like teaching reading online? You have such a great company with helping tutors and all of that. And I'm like, I don't know. I have such a deep love for helping kids with reading. I'm not sure I want to give that up. So it's still, 11 years later, here I am still teaching reading online.
And I think we're two peas in a pod, because that's what I do with my students. I teach a lot of non-native English speakers, of course, ESL. And I teach English and Spanish, and that's what I do. This morning, as I was teaching a class to a Mexican girl who's at Atlanta, Georgia, what I do is I read to them, because how did we learn how to speak and how did we learn how to read? We were read to. Yeah. And when you go in my case, when you go into another language, you become like a child again. And I read to them, and what I do is I read a sentence to them, and then they need to imitate my pronunciation. So I do a lot of like accent reduction. But what you do is really important. But I also teach spelling, and what I'm noticing with the kids that right now, especially this time of year, the spelling bee is really hitting it hard. I don't know if you're doing the same thing, but I'm teaching a lot of them, getting them prepared for the spelling bee that comes right before Christmas. And I'm noticing exactly what you're saying is that these kids in third grade, I'm teaching a family of 2 boys. I believe that they have Arab roots because the mom has a veil on when she comes on camera. And the first grader is reading much better than the third grader brother. And it seems to me like he might have a learning disability that hasn't been identified. So do you also teach people how to teach people like with learning disabilities like dyslexia and others? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's our biggest group of people that need tutoring. And when I started doing this online, I had an entire community that was really against me. And these were I love you guys out there. Like if you're watching this and you are Orton Gillingham trained, I want you to know I love you guys. But a lot of them did not like me very much. And they said, you cannot teach reading online to a dyslexic. And I said, but I've been doing it for years. So I'm not sure why you're telling me I can't do it when I have been doing it. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's our dyslexics, they need more phonics instruction than our other readers, but that doesn't mean that they can't be taught how to read and they can't do it online. There's lots of hands-on resources that you can use online, where you can be moving blocks and you can be moving virtual manipulatives and tools and resources, and they are just as effective as the other tools that we used to use when we were having them teach when they were right in front of us. The best part is there's less prep that is involved because everything's already on the computer. So it's not like you have to bring out your letter tiles. Your letter tiles are already right there, right? So you have all those resources that you need.
So why do you think, I'm just sitting here thinking, why did you think that you've gotten so much resistance from the people the haters, let's just call them haters? You're out there doing it, you're proving that it can be done. What do you think was going on with them?
I think it's just the wisdom that's been imparted to you and what you have really come to believe.
Okay.
And with when something is taught one way, it's really hard, I think, to perceive it being taught in another way. A lot of people don't realize that like teaching online is just a medium. It's not the tool, right?
Right.
Like this is just where the learning is happening, but it doesn't mean that I'm not making it hands-on for the kids. There's also a big I think there's a huge still phonics versus whole language debate out there in the world on how kids learn to read. I marry them together. Like, look, you can't separate phonics from reading, and you
Right.
can't separate reading from phonics. Like, you can't do isolated skills and drills and expect your kids to learn to read. I have found a quicker way to teach kids to read. In fact, that's exactly what I teach. I teach tutors just like yourself how to close that reading gap for your students a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. And that's exactly what I'm able to do.
And that program starts soon, right?
It does. It does. In fact, the doors close on Sunday at midnight, but
Oh, I gotta get
but
this
it is.
information out fast.
So
No,
yes,
because you
it
know
is.
why? You know
It's
why,
okay.
Joanne? I want to lock arms with you. I want to lock arms with you because, coming from an educational perspective, I'm so excited about this.
Yes.
And I want to promote your program because I've seen what you do. I've been following you for a little bit. And yeah, why take as long as it's conditioning, isn't it? It's what you've been taught.
It is what you've been taught. Yeah. And there's belief systems too, that
Mhm.
sometimes some of the things that I say go against what people, have had ingrained in them over and over and over in previous trainings. And so when somebody else comes along and says, wait, I have a way that's quicker, they're like, that can't be. Like, they automatically put their guard up and they're like,
Yeah.
no, a dyslexic can't learn to read. We've been, conditioned to think that it has to take a really long time for a dyslexic to learn to read. Once they get some certain phonics pieces in place, it can really go fast. Now, do I close the gap for every single dyslexic with 8 to 12 hours of instruction? No, but I sure as heck close it a lot faster than the Orton Gillingham program does.
Okay, what is the difference between what you do and that? Because I keep on a website that I work on. What is that program? The Orton
It is
Gillingham program.
it is extremely phonics based. So they teach every single phonics rule individually, until you have to master the written piece and spelling piece before you can move on to the reading piece. Now, here's
Oh,
something that I have learned, and this is where it gets. This is where I think some of the controversy comes.
tell me.
My theory is, for now, let's separate the spelling out. Let's focus on the reading. Get them reading really well so that they can continue to, do well in school and be able to read just as well as the other kids can, and then add spelling in after.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
they teach it at the exact same time. And if you don't master the skill, you can't go on to learning the next skill. The other thing that's different is I teach to the
Mhm.
zone of proximal development. So we're taught this idea early in when we're going to college and in university, we're taught this idea that kids learn in their zone of proximate development, which means that, like, if I'll give you an example. If I were to give you a book right now, which was filled with a ton of law statutes, words that you've never heard of, you would walk away reading that first page and have no clue what you just read, right? But if I
Yeah.
gave you a Dick and Jane book, it would be so easy for you that you wouldn't be able to
Mhm.
learn anything from it, right? So what
Yes.
I do is I teach the kids right at their zone of proximal development. So right at where they are right now. I don't wait until a program tells me that they're ready to learn this. I look and see, okay, where are most of the errors happening right now so that we can close that gap right now. And I don't have to wait until the program tells me it's the right time to teach it to them.
Exactly what you teach like I teach. You
Mhm.
diagnose them. Okay,
Yes.
because when you're looking at language, and language is closely linked with it's all the same. I mean,
Hmm.
it's how they
Hmm.
interpret, how they read, how they oh, anyway.
Yeah,
You're going to meet them where they're at, and that's what I do. That's the
exactly.
way I teach too. You don't have to, because not everybody learns the same way, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So you've
And
learned that, and I've learned that.
And I've told people too, it's not that these kids haven't been taught certain skills. They just weren't taught them when they were at their zone of proximal development, right? So if you've got a kid who hasn't mastered their basic reading skills and they didn't get the phonemic awareness, stuff in, then they're not ready to receive it. Like most kids are ready to receive it at like 4 or 5 years old, but a dyslexic might not be ready. And they're not even diagnosed by that point, right? It actually takes a really long time. Usually it just takes to like 2nd or 3rd grade before some of these kids are getting diagnosed, unless you're in California, which is now doing a screener in kindergarten for kids with dyslexia so that they can try to stamp this out faster and be able to get them the help that they need right away. Most states do not have any kind of legislation on that here in the US, but they're starting to realize the importance of early identification with these kids. And it all starts with just an easy assessment. I mean, I can tell right away. I know that if a kid has dyslexia or not. However, I don't tell a parent that, because there are other tests that need to be done by psychologists to determine if it is if dyslexia could be the problem. They have to have like a certain IQ. They have to have, there's other things that I can't diagnose, but I can usually tell pretty quickly as I'm chatting with a kid how smart and intelligent they are with the words that they use, right? So it's like, this kid is kind of talking like a little mini adult here. And then like they start reading and you're like, whoa, okay, yep, there we go.
Exactly. And then you add the other component of English as a second language, where they've come from another country or whatever the age they immigrated to the US. Okay. So that adds a whole nother thing. Their tongue has been developed with certain vowels and consonants. So they come with other challenges. So that's what I do with,
Oh yeah.
And so you've got, a bunch of, we've got a whole, like, we've got a lot of things to deal with when it comes to reading, So it depends on where they came from at the beginning. So this is so interesting. Sure. I think we have I think I'm going to invite you back. You bet.
I would love to come back.
A million things to talk about here, but it's just so interesting. Okay. So to talk about what you do, for example, when you teach the teachers, you're kind of like the tutor's tutor.
Yeah. And I tell people, so a lot of people get confused when I tell them that I'm an online tutor business coach. They're like, oh, like, well, what is that? Like, they think I actually teach them how to tutor. And I don't. I do have my one reading program, the Reading Interventionist, where I do teach tutors who want to learn how to teach reading better or teach it online. I do have that program, but that's the only program that I teach how to tutor. The rest of it, I work with people who are already great teachers or tutors like yourself, right? But they just don't know how to run their own online tutoring business. They don't know how to attract students. They don't know how to do the marketing. They don't know how to do any of that stuff. So that's where I come in and I show them, hey, here are some strategies that you can put in place so that you can get the amount of students that you want to do. Here is some, up-to-date resources and tools that are going to help you be able to do your job better and be able to do all of that. And most of the tutors that I end up working with end up making 4 to 5 figures a month.
That's appealing right there. Oh, it is. I mean, I know we're going to get a lot of views here because this is just this is good news, because working for companies out there, especially, can I just target China?
Oh, sure.
You probably know that they just cracked out on tutors, and a lot of people lost their incomes very recently. And I don't know what exactly the whole story behind that, but if you're working exclusively for Chinese companies, that's not good news, because all of a sudden you've just lost a big chunk of your students. Okay.
China came up with they just came up with a rule, because that's what China does. They're a communist government, so they have that ability to make any rules they want to whenever they want to. And they decided that that kids were spending too much time in school and not enough time with their families. And they want to really help the families stay closer together, but not like really stress all of these kids on out. And this is not going to change. Like, there's still going to be Chinese parents that are still looking for, tutors from America and that kind of stuff underground. But what the Chinese legislation did is they made it illegal for any tutoring company to be a for-profit company, and
Oh,
they may not hire anybody from the United States or any Western culture.
wow.
I wonder why, because they don't want to infuse them with any Western ideas.
Oh, okay. Thank you for filling me in on that gap because I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I
Yeah.
just knew that from one day to the next, all of a sudden things changed in the ESL tutoring
Oh,
field.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And besides the fact that I don't want to get up that early or stay up that late to give classes to Chinese. When we were traveling, full-time traveling a couple of years back in Mexico, I was up like at 4 or 5 in the morning and I got chewed out by a Chinese supervisor and I said, I'm never doing that again. I just can't handle. There's like a clash, a culture clash. And I've taught
Yeah.
lots of Asians over the years, lots, Koreans and
Yes.
Chinese, mostly Koreans, but I just can't handle the schedule. There's just a big difference between where I live and where they're going on. I just can't be that awake at 4 or 5 in the morning. But that's
Right.
my own thing. But so
Oh, that would
whatever.
be
The
my thing
decision's been
too.
made for us now.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be my thing too. Like I don't want to wake up at that time in the morning to work for
Oh,
anybody, and I get to sleep in now a little bit and
isn't that
work when I
nice?
want. I have a student in Peru that I work with starting at 8 o'clock in the morning because he's doing some online schooling, and he's 4 years old and he's the sweetest little guy in the world, and his mom's just not happy with the reading program his school is using, and she's like, he's ready to learn to read and his school doesn't seem to be teaching, so can you teach
Right.
him? I'm like, you bet.
Good for
See,
you.
that's like a mom who like knows her own child's like zone of proximal
Yes.
development, right? And I think that's so
Mhm.
cool is sometimes I get some of those parents, they're like on top of it. They're like, my kid's ready to learn, but I don't know how to teach them. And so I get some kids, a little small percentage there, but the rest of them end up being either homeschool students or the kids
Yeah.
that are struggling through the school system.
And what about not just homeschool? What do you think about, for example, world schooling? Do you know
Oh
much
my
about
God,
that?
isn't that I do. I can't believe I didn't know about Worldschooling when I was like younger and my kids could have traveled. That would have been amazing. I don't think that we didn't have a lot of income coming on in. And I know that you can do it on a really great budget, but I didn't know anything about it. But I think that's really awesome. Those
Well,
parents that
I'm going
choose
to
to
teach you
world
about
school.
world schooling, that it's cheaper to travel full-time or part-time than to live in the expensive US. I'm telling you that right now. That's been
Yeah.
our experience.
As
But
long
that's
as you
another
want to give up,
conversation.
as long as you want to give up your house, right?
That
Yeah.
too.
As
I don't
long
want you
as
to
you
have to
really
give up your house. It looks
I
like you
know, it
have a
would have been
beautiful
cool.
home.
Oh, we do. And actually, this is just a Zoom background, so this isn't our home, but we do have a very
Oh,
beautiful home, and we're very close to my husband's family, and our family is. I've never met a family closer in my entire life than our family. Like we
nice.
all live 7 minutes away from each other, and that's why we've stayed here in this glorious state of Wisconsin, is because of just how
Freezing your
close
bodies
everybody is.
off, but just because, and that's decent enough. If you're close to your family, you should stay anywhere they're at.
Right.
Yeah, most
I know.
definitely.
I know.
So let's talk about the programs, the specific programs that you offer. I know you
Yeah.
have different coaching programs running throughout the year. So what are those about?
I do. So I have the reading interventionist, which actually is available all year through. I just offered it at a discount during this short window. So right now that one is available for like $200 off that people can get that at. But the reading interventionist program shows you the exact system that I use to be able to close the gap. So you start with assessment. And so I teach you like, how do I go through this assessment process so I know exactly what to teach? And then as we go through that, we go through each of the different reading areas like phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension. How do I teach all of that online? And then I teach people, how do I do this with low lesson planning? Because nobody wants to have to lesson plan for every single one of their students, right?
No.
So I've made it really easy. While I don't have any prep, I have zero prep. It takes some people a little bit of time to start understanding the different types of students that you get and the activities that you do. But once they start understanding and they plug them in, I have templates for them where they can plug it in real quick so that they don't have to spend a lot of time on lesson planning. all of a sudden they're able to like decrease that smaller and smaller and smaller, so it doesn't take them too much time to do their lesson planning. And then we reassess to find out, okay, how much have they grown in the last 3 months with the reading. So we've taken a normed test, the QRI-7, and we're able to take a look at, okay, they have like insight words gone up this many grade levels. They've gone up in, in comprehension, this many grade levels. They've gone up in fluency, this many words. And so it's not like I'm just taking a dart and throwing it at the wall with my, eyes blindfolded, like a lot of people do. They'd be like, my kid's struggling with reading. And some people are like, okay, what grade are they in? And they start grabbing
I'm sorry, that's not the way it works.
That's not the way it works.
Individual. Yeah.
You've got to find out like what is causing the problems, right? Like, why is this? And you can't just rely on the information that the parent is giving you, because they can't see with the same eyes that you can. And so I teach you what to look for when it comes to like really just identifying what is the number one thing. If we were to pull one of those pieces of the reading out, like phonemic awareness, phonics, comprehension, if I would take one of those pieces out and just hone in on that the most, what piece would it be? And then now let's create a lesson plan with a heavier piece on that, so that they can have the most success when they go into reading. And most of our time is actually spent reading. One of the big things that I noticed when I was in the school system is the kids would be sitting, we had the open court reading program for a little while. The kids would all be sitting, in the same classroom, their teacher is going, wah, 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 in the front of the room.
Like the Charlie Brown teacher.
Yep. Yep. And the kids are just sitting there and, they might be like making spitballs, or they might be doing something else, or, kicking the kid next to them, or doing all these other things. Right. And they're not even paying attention. And I timed it one time, like, how much time are these kids actually even reading? And it came down to 5 minutes.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I kept going on into these classrooms and time. I'm like, so 5 minutes is spent on them actually reading, and it's not even cold reading text. And these kids aren't going home after school and reading. They don't even have books in their homes. So
here's the reality, right? Joanne, you've got a big classroom, what's the average classroom? 30 to 40 kids in the US, right?
Yep.
Too many kids with all different levels and experiences. Each child is unique. Okay, what can one teacher do that is lucky enough to even have an aide if the budget allows it? So by the time they get them settled down and they're not, to get them all focused on one thing, you're talking about 5 minutes of learning. That's really pitiful.
I know.
So that's not true learning.
No, it's not. And so that's when I realized, like, that was my big aha moment, that kids need to be spending most of their time in actual reading. And it can't be like reading where they have been taught every single word and every, like, and that is a difference with Orton Gillingham. They do make sure that every piece of text that's written in front of them, they've been exposed to every single one of those words. I want the kids to have to experience some different words that are going to have the patterns that they are familiar with, so that they get to utilize it and try it on. And so what I teach, instead of teaching every single phonics rule, I teach 6 patterns. And that's the closed pattern, the open pattern, silent E, glossy R, 2 vowel talkers, and C plus LE. Once they master those 6 patterns, they're able to read about 70% of the words that they'll come across. And they're not bogged down by all the phonics rules and what does what and when. The other phonics rules, I can just tell them. I don't really have to teach it to them. I can just tell it to them and have them practice some words with that or something. I don't have to teach them all in isolation. We can just kind of teach them as we go, if I feel like it is at their zone of proximal development, because sometimes they're just not ready. They're not going to be ready to learn like that C makes the sound when it's next to I, E, or Y when they are in first grade, in the beginning of first grade reading level, right? Like there's other skills they need to learn that are more important than that at that point in time. And so, I'm able to take a look and be like, okay, systematically, what are the phonics skills they should be mastering at this, not age level, but this grade level. So I now have taken the reading into grade levels instead of the child into like, this is the grade that you should be taught at. And that was the biggest problem I had in the school system that I was at, because the kids, like we had this one test, it was called the Dibbles assessment.
Yeah.
And if a kid was in third grade, they had to take the third grade Dibbles assessment, right? And I told that the administration would get mad at me when I said, hey, look, we are having kids that are reading at a first grade level, reading a third grade Dibbles passage, and you want to see improvement on that passage, but you're putting them in frustrational text at the beginning of the year, and then you're putting them in frustrational text at the middle of the year, and then you're putting them in frustrational text at the end of the year. Are you going to see improvement? Not with that assessment. It's the wrong assessment if you want to see improvement. And so if you want to see improvement, give them a first grade Dibbles and see where they're, because we need to take if they're at a first grade reading level, let's then assess them at a first grade reading level. Oh, that did not go well. They're like,
no,
we cannot do that. We cannot do that. And I'm like, okay, but I'm just telling you, you're using the wrong assessment for this child. It doesn't make sense.
You were a disruptor, and I love it.
And that's why I'm no longer in the school system. I wasn't fired or anything, guys. I promise you.
I know. You're a luxury for them. You're just too much for them. You're the revolutionist, the disruptor, and yes. I'm one of those too. So we're going to be friends. I'm just telling you right now. I'm declaring it.
Oh,
because that's who I am too. And
that's
the
why
main
I left my
thing
last
that
school.
I teach is phonetics and pronunciation. That's my thing. Because when you're speaking a foreign language, it doesn't matter if you know all the grammar. If you don't say it right, nobody's going to understand you. And if you don't hear it right, then you can't respond correctly either. So there's a gap there, and I try to work on that too. So that's the one program. And then what are the other things that you're doing?
The major one for the tutors who want to really learn how to have an amazing online tutoring business is the Jumpstart Your Online Tutoring Business Masterclass. And this is one of my favorite programs because it's not just me. I do have videos that people watch, but we have gamified the entire program. So it's like a mini competition. So when I got started helping tutors, I had what was called my Tutorpreneur program. And I taught some of the same basic ideas and just like how to run your business, you know, what tools and resources to use and all of that kind of stuff. And people would just kind of like shake their head. They do some of it. Some of them wouldn't even watch the videos. They would just come to some of the live calls where it was like question answer. But I just didn't feel a lot of people were getting the momentum and like taking action. And so what I wanted to do is create a program that was fun, gamified, collaborative at the same time, where they were making relationships with each other and getting results, because that is the big thing. Like nobody wants to be a coach to people who are just kind of sitting on the sidelines and not really participating, right? Like I'm somebody who's going to coach you to be on the field, right? I'm not coaching you to be sitting on the bench. So my goal is to get everybody playing on the field. And so my goal during Jumpstart is for everybody to get one student or a whole lot more so that they can run a sustainable business and be excited every time one of their students has a light bulb aha moment.
I do. I certainly do. I'll
That's
tell you about one of my students, and I know I've got to wrap it up because you've got a class here. But I've got one student who's very passionate about soccer. So as you know, you've got to focus in on what the passion is. If the kids aren't having fun, and tell me, if I'm not having fun as a tutor, I know the kids are dying. Yeah, they're dying. Yeah. So we do a lot of, talking about Messi from Argentina, and we talk about, Neymar from Brazil, and I incorporate my classes around soccer because I know that if I do that, this kid, and he's my favorite student, this kid is going to be like on board. And then when he has a light bulb moment, I say, goal, and I'm now teaching him Spanish. And he gets all excited, and he comes each time with his soccer. He comes from his soccer game. He is the star soccer player in Texas and for his team. He's only 10 years old, But I'm telling you, things like that, when you gamify it and make it fun, you're going to have so much more retention as a tutor, because the kids are going to be telling, I love my tutor, and they look forward to that, and then the word's going to spread. You're going to have word of mouth, and you're going to have more and more. It's just all positive all around. I love the fact that you gamify everything. I do that
Yeah.
too. So we
Yeah.
play lots
It's
of
awesome.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do it with the tutors that go through my Jumpstart program. So we go through, and we also work on mindset, because a lot of people don't realize that one of the biggest things that's holding us back isn't, a lack of tutoring skills or lack of how to do it online. It's really the belief in yourself and what you believe
Yes.
about money to be true, because people think, oh, people won't pay this much money. Well, let's take a look at your beliefs about money, okay? Because that belief isn't coming from the people that are hiring you. That belief is ingrained in you. So let's
Yes.
rewire that so that you can actually now be accepting the amount of money that needs to come your way. And I now have tutors. From the last cohort, one of the tutors in the 10-week program ended up making over $30,000 just from the 10 weeks that she had been in the program.
Wow. I'm going to say something to that. Goal.
I know. And I was like, all right, so I want you to tell, because I asked her on my
Down.
YouTube channels. I'm like, all right, tell me, like, when somebody says to you, like, I'm not sure if I want to spend the money, what would you say to them? She's like, okay, honestly, I'm just going to tell you, you are stupid if you do not like invest in the program, because
It's an
this
investment.
program
You have to think
teaches
about
you
it
how
as
to
an
make money.
investment.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it is. And there's so many people, and depending on how you grow up, most of us probably grew up in a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
Where money doesn't go on trees and money is the root
Yep.
of all evils. I've also had to be trained in this, and it's simply not true. Money doth grow on trees.
Oh, yeah. And now it grows in the air too. Isn't that
And
cool?
it grows in the air too.
It doesn't come out of thin air. Oh, yes, it does.
But you have to create it, and you have to get through those mind blocks,
Yes.
to get through
and
that.
So as soon as people start realizing that, like, that they have been programmed, in a different way, that isn't going to help them be successful. And if they can just try on a couple of these new thoughts and see how it does with their business, amazing things happen for them. Now, this tutor that did go for, ended up making $30,000. I will tell you, we had the least amount of mindset work that had to be done there. She already had a lot of those instilled ideas, right? But so other people that kind of go through this, the Tutorpreneur Hero Award winner, she had just started her company in August, had only 1 or 2 students when she got started, and she left at the end of 10 weeks with 15 students.
Wow, that's a huge win.
A huge win, and so exciting. And she didn't come with the same, mindset that, our $30,000 friend had, but she had a mindset that I'm going to put in all of the work and the actions that Joanne tells me to do, because everybody says they work. So I'm just going to believe them. And it was almost like that blind faith that led her to the success that she accepted, that it was already inevitable for her to be successful, because she went into it with that mindset. When you go into it with a mindset, like, I already know this, I've already tried that, it didn't work. When you go in with that kind of a mindset, you're not going to be successful, because you're constantly going to battle your thoughts on what I'm saying. And that's where some of the trouble can come for some people. But if they stay open-minded, it is amazing what can happen. And I asked the tutor that got 15 students, Justine Forelli. I just asked her yesterday, because I featured her on my YouTube channel. I said, so Justine, I said, what was like the number one way that helped you get students? She goes, Joanne, I created a flyer on my own before Jumpstart, and I put it up different places. And she's like, I didn't get one call. She goes, but then I created a flyer based off of your tips, and I got call after call. She's like, I got a call that day that I put the flyer up. It was like immediate that I was getting people reaching out to me for tutoring services. She's like, anybody who thinks that the way that you teach these things is not going to work hasn't actually tried your strategies, because she's like, they work. They absolutely work.
You're giving me chills. Honestly, you're giving me chills. I'm so excited. No, because there's a better way to do it, and stop self-sabotaging, you know?
Really? Yes. 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 I mean, we try different things and then we just think to ourselves, oh, that strategy doesn't work. What if it's not the strategy that doesn't work? What if it's the way we're going about it? Right? Like maybe I'm going about it old school way, right? Maybe I'm
Exactly.
putting my phone number on those little like tear off tabs,
Oh, no, no, no,
right?
no.
Like I saw those in college, like back 25. Wait, how many years? I don't know how many years ago it was anymore. Like, I don't know. I'm a spring chicken. I don't know. 25 years ago. I don't know. Maybe.
About the same time for me, maybe a little bit longer, actually. I hate to say that.
But you'd see them in the bathrooms, you tear them off. That's all you had. Right now we got QR codes, right? So like, let's get into the,
QR codes, love it.
21st century and put a QR code on there instead. And little tips like that, they make a huge difference.
I love it. I love it. It's so modern. I love it. Okay. Well, let's just talk about you personally. So your programs sound fabulous, and we're going to link some of those. We're going to link your programs in the description. So if anybody's interested in this, they can just directly follow those links and sign up for your programs. You have one starting this next week, right? It starts on Monday. It closes on Sunday night, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So what about you personally? Do you have any hobbies and interests?
I do. I love to crochet. In fact, I have one of my projects here right now that I'm working on. I am making a fall blanket, but it's all these little like granny squares and pieces that I will end up putting together. So yeah, this is it's
beautiful.
I just love to keep my hands busy. And it's also the perfect thing for me to do while I'm listening to kids read. Because I can be sitting here and, I just do it under here, like nobody knows because I don't need to look or anything. So I'm just kind of like doing it here and I'm able to like go along and I'm really, I focus on listening to, okay, did that make sense? So that I can just say to them, hey, did that make sense?
Yeah.
Because reading has to make sense. And then they go back and they fix it and then they keep reading, right? And so it's like the perfect thing just to.
Good for you. You're a
otherwise
multitasker.
Sometimes you like listen to kids read. Yeah.
Excuse me. And then the other interest I saw that was traveling, which we share. Okay.
Yes, and I'm going to Texas next week on Tuesday with my daughter. But yeah, I love traveling. I love going different places all around the world, and it's so cool that traveling is just opening on up again. And I haven't been to too many. I'm not a world traveler as much like you. The furthest I've gone is China. And then like around, other than that, it's a little bit more like local, like Canada or Mexico.
I'm not a world traveler either. I'm in America. I've only traveled in the Americas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've lived over 20 years in Latin America, but I can't say I've ever been to Europe or China. So you've got me beat in that. So we have been to Colombia and Cuba. That's pretty impressive. I thought that was pretty awesome. I took my boys there. So that was fun. I better go ahead and close. So how would you like to be contacted?
Absolutely.
How can people contact you?
I would love for you guys to join our ultimate support group on Facebook. You just go to Facebook in the search box, just put ultimate support group for online tutors and you will find us. And the reason why I say that is because it's about connecting to a community and networking and there you'll be connected with me. You'll be connected with amazing tutors that we are worldwide. So if you've got a question at 2:00 in the morning, you could type that question into Facebook and somebody around the world is going to answer your question. And I think that is like so much more valuable than even just like reaching out to me. It might take me 2 or 3 days to get back to you because I've got such a cramped schedule, but it's awesome. So I would start there. I do have a freebie. It is 50+ ways to be able to get online tutoring students. And it's a workbook that guides you. It used to just be like a list that I had that's grown because I started realizing like, okay, what's not working with this freebie for people? Like, where are they getting stuck? And where's the holdup here? And so I've made a workbook that really guides them through the whole process of how to get students, because before, you ever decide that you want to work with me, I want you to have gotten success already and at least gotten one student, if possible. Some people do. And I think that's amazing. They're like, yeah, I watched your YouTube channel and I was able to get a student from a tip that you gave me there. I'm like, awesome. Yay. That's what I want. I want you to get these wins, so that you could see that like the stuff that I'm teaching is legit.
And because you're helping people, you can't help but have success because you're giving people what they want. And at the same time, it's a boomerang effect that will come back to you, and you can't help but be successful and prosperous. So I'm so happy. I'm just so happy we met, honestly.
I know.
I am glad
too.
we could actually get a schedule together. So thank you so much. I want to extend that offer that I talked to you, that you are welcome to come visit us in Chalpala, Mexico, where we live, where it's perfect weather all year long. You know that is an open invitation. Just saying.
I love it already.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. The closest airport is Guadalajara. And just on a side note, for those who are listening, don't forget to subscribe, as we feature a lot of interesting perspectives in these podcast interviews in both English and Spanish. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you again, Joanne, for coming. It was a real pleasure to talk with you, and we will definitely be in touch, and I am going to spread your word around. You're going to just duplicate your subscribers. No, I'm just kidding. You already have enough.
Oh no, you never have enough. You never have enough, ever. My goal is to 10 times my exposure in the next 5 to 10 years. So
love it. Love it. And just saying, Joanne has several thousand followers on YouTube and her programs. So she doesn't need me, but I'm just saying, I'm just going to be one of your many fans. I'm joining your fan club, and I'm one of your extra cheerleaders.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Nobody can have too many of those. I tell you, that's for sure. Especially in the online world, right?
Encouragement is always welcome. Okay, I'm going to let you go. You're free to go. Thank you so much for coming on today. And by the way, this says that my name is Diane. That's my teaching name. My name is Kimberly with L-E, Kim. So have a good day, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much. God bless.
Bye,
Okay,
Kimberly.
bye-bye.